Hey all, Exidian here. The Moving Item Filter 5.0 is quite flexible to be sure, but it has one big flaw, and that's, well, it's big. So, I'm making this video to inform you that there are other options, what I like to call category item filters, or group item filters. I haven't decided on the name yet. Probably group item filters. First of all, there is a decorative pot, or a planter box. These can filter out any crop. Crops, of course, by definition, are an edible plant with seeds. So this means a decorative pot and planter box cannot filter out kelp or mushrooms. Fun fact, scientifically, they are not plants anyways. Music sheet stands can filter out any music sheet. Mannequins can filter out any armor. Skeleton Decor and Deceased Explorer can filter out any helmet. Note that this is actually very difficult to do. You see, Skeleton Decors and Deceased Explorers have this second slot that can hold any item. This makes the filtering process a lot more difficult and complicated. Moving on, we have the Aquarium and Fishing Net Rack, which can filter out any fish. The Terrarium can filter out any insect. Insect in this case being defined as any critter that is not a glow bug, so not this thing below me or any of the other three colors of it. Quick editor's note, I didn't quite describe super well what an insect is. So an insect is any critter that is not a glow bug, and to be clear, any critter means crabs, butterflies, things that you might not normally, even worms, things that you don't normally consider to be insects in the real world. If you can catch it with a bug net and it's not a glow bug, it is an insect. Then we have a feeding trough, which can filter out any feed. Feed being defined as a crop, insect, kelp, or mushroom. So any crop, any insect, any kelp, any mushroom. I'll give you all a moment to screenshot this if you want. This is a good cheat sheet for remembering these things. And with that, let's get into it. Before we can start though, I would like to cover how all of these work, generally speaking. So here in a chest we have a mushroom, a kelp, and a crop. So if we stand on this pressure plate, the robot arm takes the mushroom out of the chest and attempts to plant it in the decorative pot. You cannot put a mushroom in a decorative pot, so the item drops to the ground, where it can get picked up by a drill. So when we step on this pressure plate, the drill activates, pulling the item, and then after which the arm activates, but there's no item to grab. If we repeat this with the kelp, it drops to the ground since you cannot plant a kelp in a decorative pot. The drill grabs it, and then the arm activates afterwards with nothing to grab. If we do this a third time with a crop, this time you can plant a crop in a decorative pot so it does not drop to the ground, so a drill cannot grab it. Therefore, the arm will grab it and separate it out from the rest. This is the general concept of how we filter out items using these, we'll call them filter objects. Let's take another example. Here we have an aquarium and a chest filled with 4 orange cave guppies. If we step on the pressure plate, the robot arm puts 4 orange cave guppies into the aquarium, except we only get back 3 and 1 goes to the left. What's happening here? Well, you can only fit 3 fish in an aquarium. Not 3 stacks of fish, but simply 3 fish. So the 4th orange cave guppy drops to the ground where it gets picked up by the drill, and this is actually how all of these filter objects work with 2 exceptions. The first is the feeding trough, which can hold 1 whole stack of each item in its slot. The second is the mannequin. Now, while the mannequin can only hold 1 item of each slot, the items that it filters, armor, cannot stack, so you couldn't put 2 breastplates in the mannequin anyways, even if you wanted to. So with that, Next, we'll cover how to build these filters. So before we can start covering the designs, I really briefly want to describe a legend to you. Legend is in like a key to you. Should be noted that we will be covering schematics, which you can see up top, and fully built equivalents, which you can see down bottom there. So covering how those look, anytime you see blue or purple arrow signs, these correspond to robot arms, and the arms point in the directions of the arrows. Anytime you see red arrow signs, these refer to either drill. It can be a normal drill or a crude drill, and once again they point in the direction of the arrows. Anytime you see an orange fence post, that is a pedestal. Anytime you see a green fence post, that is a chest. Anytime you see a brown fence post, that is either a 1x1 filter object, a 3x1 filter object if there's 3 of them, or a 2x2 filter object if there's 4 of them in a square like so. Filter objects in this case once again refer to these things that we will be passing items through to filter things. So with that, I'll give you a moment to screenshot. And let's get into it. Okay, so let's take a bite of our cake, and I'll be covering these from simplest to most complicated. So to begin with is the feeding trough, or the feed filter. This covers, once again, crops, insects, not glow bugs, kelp, and mushrooms, but not giant mushroom. So first we'll start with a demonstration. We turn it on, we can see out the bottom we get all the feed, and out the top we get all the other stuff, the glow bugs, the giant mushroom. Now it should be noted that I will cover the schematics. Well, I won't cover the schematics, but they will be there, so you are free to take a screenshot at any time to copy them. I'll cover this first one here as an example, but not any others. So you can see here we've got 2 robot arms, 1 drill, 1 wire, 1 cross circuit that we've pressed E on, and 2 logic circuits, an electricity stick, and a generator. And of course the feeding trough is down the middle. So the next design we have is the mannequin, or the armor filter. We've got the best gear set, as well as 2 others, and some junk. So when we turn it on, we can see all the junk goes down to the bottom, and the armor gets filtered out on the right side. So you can see all the junk here. Let's turn off the machine. All the junk here, and then all of the armor is over on the right here. Yeah, we don't need to put it in any particular order. Okay, moving on. Let's cover all of the, if you recall earlier, we need, yes, if you recall earlier, we had this problem where we couldn't fit the cave guppies into the thing, and I mentioned that into the aquarium, and I mentioned this is a problem for most of these filter objects. So for that we'll need this thing. It's called a stack, not a stack splitter, but a stack separator, we'll call it. It separates out your stacks 1 item at a time. So you can see here we're separating out the stacks of kelp. When we get down to just the ancient coins left, it separates a bit slower. It can separate multiple stacks in parallel, but it separates out single stacks of items 1 item per second. So it slows down significantly if you don't have stuff there, but it's still reasonably fast for your purposes. It should be noted with chests, this is 1 item per stack per second, and without chests, it's 0.7 items per stack per second. So I recommend chests. They're not expensive. It's quite easy to do. It should be noted that there on the right you'll see there's a design with a lever to turn it on or off, and on the left is a design without a lever. So moving on, you can see this black box here. This actually corresponds to the stack separator. So anytime you see this, it's a stack separator. So our design for the planter box and the fishing net is pretty straightforward. You can see it's literally just a wire and an arm and a drill added. So here we have crops, mushroom, kelp, seeds, and fish. So if we turn it on, we can see that the crops go to the bottom path and everything else goes to the top path. Once again, while we're waiting, if you look on the left, you can see the wire and the drill and arm. It's very straightforward addition to the crop filter. So here you can see all the crops that we filtered out. Sorry, a very straightforward addition to the stack separator. And then here you can see all the other stuff that wasn't crops filtered out. So let's put that all in here. Here we have a vertical version that does fishing net racks. The reason it's vertical is you cannot actually rotate fishing net racks like you can with a planter box. So turning it on, we can see now the crops as well as a bunch of other things go on the right side and the fish go on the left side. Or in other words, unlike before where the crops got picked up by the arm and everything else was picked up by the drill, here the fish get picked up by the arm and everything else gets picked up by the drill. So let's put those back. And real quick we'll go and put the rest of the stuff back in the box. Okay. Should be noted for if you need to turn it off, on and off, the lever cannot be where it normally would be if you had a lever design, because that's where the planter box would go. You can just have it without a power switch. I recommend that. I'm only using a power switch because it allows me to turn them on and off for demonstration purposes. Next we have the aquarium and terrarium. So similarly, this one only requires 2 robot arms, a drill, and 2 wires configured like so, as well as, of course, your aquarium or terrarium going in that spot. So let's take a look at what we've got. We've got some insects, some glow bugs, some fish, and an aquarium. So turning it on, we'll see that the insects go to the right, the glow bugs and the fish, as well as the aquarium, go to the top. Okay. Once again, insects on the right side. We'll put them here. And then, let me go around here real quick. Glow bugs, fish, and the aquarium up top. We'll put them in the same chest. But let's actually use the aquarium. We'll replace our terrarium with an aquarium and demonstrate that as well. Turning it on, this time we can see that rather than insects going to the right and everything else going to the top, we can see that fish go to the right and everything else goes to the top. Turning it off, we'll demonstrate. We can see the fish on the right. And everything else went up top. Moving on to our last filters. These are the single wide filter objects. That is the planter box and the music sheet. Should be noted that although the filter objects are small, because they're so small, the ordering of things is different, so it's quite a bit larger in circuitry design. Here we have crops, we have seeds, we have kelp, we have a planter box, we have music sheets. When we turn it on, we can see that the crops and the seeds and the kelp and the planter box and all that all go to the top, while the music sheets, because they can actually be placed on the music sheet stand, go to the right. So music sheets, and then we have everything else. Real quick for demonstration, let's replace our music sheet stand with our decorative pot and put it in. Now I can say, personally, I don't think it's worth it to use a decorative pot for this design because you can just use a planter box. However, it should be noted you cannot craft planter boxes, you can craft decorative pots. Planter boxes have to be found in the ocean biome, alongside where you find fishing net racks. So here you can see, to the right went the crops, and to the top went everything else. The music sheets, the seeds, the kelp, the music sheet stand, etc. So that covers group item filters. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I hope that this wasn't too brief. I know I didn't cover the circuitry designs in detail. I'm hoping that the circuitry schematic versions make it easy enough to read that you can just pause and design it yourself. Feel free to reach out to me on the circuitry Discord or in the comments if you have any questions. Thanks, and bye.